You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series. My name is Andrew Mackay-Smith, and the interview subject that I have coming up for you is Michael Stowers from the Melbourne outfit Orsome Welles. The reason for the conversation is to promote their run of shows across Australia throughout June and July 2017. So let's have a listen to what Michael has to say. Here we go. Michael, welcome to the Scars and Guitars podcast. I'm going to open our chat with both a statement and a question. Now, from what I've heard of the new EP, Rise, it's awesome. It straddles that very fine line between mainstream accessibility and also metal street cred, I should say. So surely the opportunity exists for the band to receive airplay on mainstream rock radio stations such as Southern Cross Oz Stereo or Triple M in Australia and WKSM, FM or 99 Rock in the USA. Is it the band's intention to reach as broad a possible audience as possible, or would you welcome the opportunities and some of the compromises that are presented with some serious exposure?
Yeah, that's a good opener. Yeah, definitely. I think we never write with the intention of having such things as radio songs or anything like that. I think we've got a unique background, all of us, that we bring to our writing process and now into the production process as well. And no, I think that's amazing that you hear it that way, because we think we're a serious band, but we also feel like we've got appeal to that wider audience. And I don't think we'd have to sacrifice too much to take that next step. I think it's as a singer and as a songwriter and melody writer, I relish the chance to write things that are accessible and that people can sing along to and that are memorable.
Yeah,
and
sure.
You hear that term earworms come along, and I think I never write intentionally to have earworms, but it's if I go away from a rehearsal or a writing session and I'm whistling away or humming away a melody or a riff or a tune or whatever, I think that's a good sign, and it's definitely a motivator for us to move forward. Yeah, I think we're not gonna not write something because it sounds too commercial, because I don't even know what that is these days. So I think it's just more about that accessibility and that memorability for people, which I think probably drives our production sense these days. The big choruses and the big riffs are the ways that we write, and they come from our influences. So it's just natural that it ends up that way.
Yeah, fair enough. And look, if great success was to happen, i.e. stateside and in Europe and the like, are you all sort of in a position where you can up and go to take advantage of it, or are you all doing that wonderful thing we all do in Australia, including myself for many years, where we lead dual lives as both careerists and musos?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. We've all you've got to pay your way when you're independent artists and you want to release things and tour nationally as a start. But no, we discuss as a band how serious we are and what people can commit to, and that's definitely something we're heading towards. In our own minds is that ability to break through, I guess. And I guess you never know when that's going to happen, and the ability to be able to up and go. But it's about doing what a mix of what suits us as well as what would suit an opportunity like that. So, but look, personally, I always go into. I've been in my last job for 12 months, and I'm lucky to be doing some music in that job as well. And all my workmates, tell me what they think of the last video they released, and how awesome it is we're going on tour and that sort of thing. So, I think we're all in a position where if that opportunity comes, then we'll take it with both hands.
Yeah, great response, by the way. Yeah, I know it's a bit like that in Australia. My next question alludes to some of the struggles that I've certainly got feedback from some of our metal brethren. And you all seem to be from Melbourne. I don't know what it is about metal in Melbourne at the moment, but it's definitely the hot spot, mate. So,
yeah, it seems that way, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's all good, mate. It's good stuff. I spoke to Riley from Desecrator, and we had a really good chat. Sorry, I can't remember the name of the lead singer from Aversion's Crown, but another great band. And I think there's a bit of a renaissance going on in the scene at the moment. I've been a fan of Australian metal. A conscious fan of Australian metal is what I'm talking about. Like trying to find it and dig deep for it for about 25 odd years or so. I'm 39, so it's taken up the majority of my late teenage years and all of my adult life. But I can't remember a time where we've had so many. When I say world class bands that I can't. They're bands that, including yourselves, I'm putting you guys in this bracket too. If you told me that you're from Florida in the US or something, I'd go, fair enough, but you're saying to me that you're from Melbourne in Australia, and I think it's just a wonderful thing that we've got such representation at the moment.
And I think... I think it's an amazing time to be a part of the scene. That and I think it's not a competitive, like only one band gets a chance type of feeling. I think it's the respect for Australian metal bands that's happening, around the world is, an opportunity for the next bands coming along, and I think it's it can only serve itself if the bands support the scene and everyone's supporting each other, and we definitely feel that. We've got so many friends who are in bands because we've played with them, and you're so excited to hear what they're doing next, and that drives you a little bit to make sure what you're doing is of the utmost quality, and taking steps forward and experimenting on the ways that you do things. And it's bands like Carnival have sort of paved the way, and 12 Foot Ninja and that sort of thing. And it's and look, in those two bands you've got so many different sounds too, and I think it's the uniqueness of what's coming out of this country is probably what's appealing. I think it's we're lucky in a way that you have to get up and leave your hometown to get to your fans around Australia, but in the same token, you're able to see these different bands and hear the different sounds that are coming out of the different places, and it drives you more, and you get more influences. And it's an awesome time to be a band on the rise. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And look, something I've personally given a lot of thought to. The next it's a question that I'm going to ask, but I've given a lot of thought to the answer to it. Okay, so I'll ask you the question.
Okay.
It's a long one, so bear with me for a moment. In Canada, radio stations are licensed, and I believe it's since 1999. They've been licensed to play local content at least 40% of the time, which I assume is measured over a 24-hour cycle using a system called MAPL. It's you can go and research it and see what it means on Wikipedia or what have you, but it probably accounts for the Shania Twains, Nickelbacks and Avril Lavigne's of the world. However, it also alludes to the success of the Devon Townsends, Protest the Heroes, Gorguts and Ancients. And I can... all the plethora of research I've done, it absolutely supports an industry. So it will never likely happen in Australia that you'll have legislation introduced to provide for so much local content on the radio. So what do you think would help the local industry and encourage young musicians to keep plying their craft before they give it up and forge a regular career? Because to be honest, I'm in that basket. I was plying my trade as a muse. I went, I've got to stop doing this because I want to get married and have kids and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, look, I think one thing I feel pretty strongly about, I think it's radio's an interesting beast in Australia, and has been for a long time. I think it's so calculated and just feels so owned by the corporate machine that a lot of bands are sort of giving up on any chance of being played on commercial radio, which is a real shame.
It's very cynical, isn't it, by the mainstream radio? I think with that, because to me, you guys should be on Triple M in drive time. But I'm only one guy, but honestly,
that.
I feel that strongly about your music, to be honest. I mean, I was listening to it, I'm thinking, man, if there was more stuff like this on the radio, you'd probably have far more engagement with the radio, rather than people switching the radio off and going to podcasts or what have you. But anyway, that's only an opinion.
Yeah, well, I think it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Because I think you were saying before about, how do you write songs and if you compromise to take that next step, and
yep.
I think bands are sort of putting that to the back burner and just exploring what they can do, and not being restricted by anything means that you get this amazing quality and diversity in the music scene. So yeah, look, it's I think it's also the commercial TV world as well. Like, being a singer in a band, some of the response you get when you tell people that is, have you been on The Voice, or have you auditioned for The Voice? And you're like, well,
yep.
I always ask, how many CDs have you bought of people who've been on The Voice? And the answer is usually none. So, like, I mean, it's people sort of are being having the wool pulled over their eyes that it's that fame is something that you sort of got to raffle for and get voted in to be someone of note, when these bands are working so hard to push the boundaries and do it themselves. And look, I mean, personally, I love it. Like, especially a week like this when we're about to release an EP and we've got videos that are being viewed all around the world, and that the hard work is the reward in itself, and I think if you're trying to find a way to, get people back to that way of thinking, and there's also, the things about lockout laws and these things which are attacking the live music scene, and it seems like all the walls are closing in, so I think everything's sort of got a tipping point. So you hope that there's eventually so much interest in homegrown talent and heavy talent that the radio stations are forced to play it because people want it.
Yes, no, very good response there, mate. Thanks for that. And so I'll talk about the album now. So Rise, I understand, was mastered by Steve Smart at Studio 301 in Sydney. So for our international listeners, Steve is known as the man locally. He's worked with artists, prominent international or domestic artists that have made it on the international stage. Crowded House, Kenny G, and Kenny G isn't domestic, so what am I talking about there? Crowded House and Silverchair, and also Kenny G from the international scene. Well, I wonder if he might have an Australian grandparent. We never know. There we go.
Yeah, who knows?
What was it like working with Steve?
He's the ultimate professional, really. Like, I mean, he what we try to do is have everything ready to go by the time you get it to his ears, I guess. He has this ability to understand what you're trying to create by what you've been able to provide for him, and the results speak for themselves. And personally, like with the way that he sits the vocals in the mix, it's centered, but it's not at the forefront, and it's there's lots of space, even though it's a big heavy wall of sound sometimes. And but yeah, look, I mean, the results speak for themselves. Not just on our recording, but on anything that he puts his mind and ears to. Yeah, it's fantastic.
So tell me about the dynamic in the band. Who writes the music, and how do all of the songs come together?
Yeah, we definitely write as a collective. There's ideas that come from different instruments, guitars, bring some riffs, and that might lead to a jammy type writing session. Sometimes we find me sitting in the corner of a rehearsal studio for a couple of rehearsals in the row, just penning it down some lyrics. Sometimes it's it comes really quickly. Sometimes I've brought chords and melodies to the band, but we definitely the end product is always as a result of everyone in the band having their little take on it, and hearing things that you might not necessarily hear because of the way the instruments are. But it's we've always had an equal share in how we write, and as well as like lyrical content, even though it mostly comes from me. Definitely always asking, what do people feel about this song? What are people seeing when they close their eyes? And trying to jump off something that's already in the music, rather than trying to force any sort of particular theme in there. And I feel like our fans respond to that. I always want to leave the real true meaning of a song up to the listener, because I think they're the ones that need to, put the pieces together to what a song might mean to them. And that's how I really love listening to music. And, amount of times I've figured out the actual lyrics to a song of someone else's song, and I've been singing something completely different, but I don't really care because, like I'm singing along, and I don't really care if people do that to my lyrics either, because if they're just singing along and feeling something about the song, I wouldn't want anything sort of too literal to get in the way of that. And it's just more about that atmospheric composition that we really go for, creating that sound that, we hope is becoming synonymous with Orsome Welles.
Yeah, that's a good point. So actually, I'll take it back a step. Couldn't agree more with you about being a very visual band, because that's certainly one of the things that I found about it. I was listening to the tracks on YouTube, and apart from you having wonderful videos, I found that your song inspires imagery. That mental imagery that comes that can come along with very progressive music. So well done on that, being able to be a fourth dimensional, a multi-dimensional band. So on that note, and you do have Orson Welles was the narrator or the creator of War of the Worlds, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, yeah.
Something that I had a tape when I was a kid that I used to listen to. I think I wore the tape out, listening to it back to front. So how did you get the name, and who was the band inspired by?
Yeah, well, the name definitely came about. We all studied music together, and it was in one of the lectures that we were talking about movie music with Citizen Kane, and he was an amazing movie maker, and did a lot of things for the first time, and look, I think I leaned over to someone in the class and said Orson Welles, more like Orsome Welles, and we really just. Sort of just came at the right time. We didn't go out intending to come up with a pun band name, that's for sure. But look, we ran with it, and we sort of felt it fit with what we were trying to do, which is do things slightly to the side of what was happening around us, not in any sort of not in any particular way, just in a way that inspired us and helped us be creative. That we were like, yeah, cool, I haven't heard anyone do that before. Let's try that. Just in an interested way. And I think inspiration for the band just comes from that. Just that ability to when someone comes in with an idea, what could this be? Not trying to force it to be anything that it's not, but just keeping on opening it up and trying new things with it until sort of that next, overarching idea comes, and then the song as a whole becomes apparent, and we fill in the gaps from there, which is it's an amazing, thing to be a part of when you're writing that way, because everyone in the room feels like, there's a moment where it clicks and you go, yeah, this is what this song feels like, and it can be miles away from what you had at the start, but that little kernel is, and just constantly trying to reinvent it until it becomes something that we all feel is the final product.
So do you guys rehearse? Do you guys come in with, do you say, for example, does the guitarist come in with a riff and you work on it from there, or do you share ideas via MP3 first and then work on a basic bones of an idea and then get to the rehearsal room and then work it out?
Yeah, it's a bit of both. I think we definitely use social media and technology as much as we can, which is great. I love when I see a little MP3 come up on the Orsome Welles Facebook page, and it's a riff from Tui, the guitarist's song bank or whatever it is. It's recorded on his pedal and put it up there, and yeah, what I think is really cool about that process is I sort of don't really hear maybe what he hears, and I come in and I might have written a whole verse over it. And he's like, okay, cool. I didn't really sort of see it going that way, but and then it might change again after that. But with my own sort of contributions, I guess I love writing on nylon string guitar. For some reason, I always sort of can hear what instrumentation might work well around that sound, even if it's sort of like a humming version of a melody and a little bit of, I don't know, Anthony Kiedis type, riffing with no particular words, just to sort of get that idea across. I might record a video and send it to those guys, and before you know it, it's turned into a riff. And as you said, that can be in between rehearsals and because everyone's busy and rehearsal time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Is often, especially at the moment, it's often based around our performance and what we're putting together for the Rise tour, and you've got to be proactive and the ability to write when not everyone's in the room as well.
Yeah, cool. All right, we've almost come to the end of the interview, and I have 3 questions that I ask all of my interview subjects, so I'd love it if you could hear me here and play along. And your answers can be as not safe for work as you like. So here goes.
Okay.
It's one of these. First question, choose 3 words to describe yourself.
Orsome Welles or myself?
Oh, you, as in Michael. This is all about you.
Okay, cool. What about inquisitive, bald singer?
That works. There we go. All righty. So, second question. If you could go back to when you were 18 and give yourself some advice, what do you think you'd say?
I would say forget about what other people might think about the things that you like and pursue them quicker.
Yep, great advice. Yep. And final question. What 5 guests, living or dead, would you invite to dinner?
5. Both my grandfathers, who've passed. John Farnham.
Cool.
Bon Scott.
Yes.
And Cleopatra.
Wow. Okay. That'd be an interesting one. That'd be a very interesting one.
It would be.
Yes, that'd be a good one.
It would be very interesting. Yeah. Look, I mean, I don't know why my grandfather's popped into my mind, but I suppose the 2 people that I'd like to.
Yeah, no, it's
have
nice.
A chat
Good
to
on you.
Again and have a again.
Yeah, that's it. And Cleopatra, any meaning behind that one there, or was it just one of those? You sound like you're into history as well. When I say sound like, I guess you sound like one of those guys who is an intellect and so deep dives into things. So you probably are into history. And has Cleopatra got some interest for you?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. But I think I really like historical figures that were turned into narrative figures. So she's in Antony and Cleopatra, which is a Shakespeare play, and almost like her whole story in history and also in fiction is amazing. And I feel like maybe her actual personality was more amazing than any of those that anyone has discovered. So should be an interesting person, and who knows where the night would go.
Yeah.
With her, snakes and poison and all that sort of stuff. Crazy.
Yeah, I have a feeling Johnny might be on his own there for parts of it. Bon would certainly be happy. I think Bon would keep her company.
Yeah. I reckon they might hit it off, yeah. Sure.
Well, that's it. Is there any final words that you want to share with the listeners?
Oh, look, I just really hope people get a chance to have a listen to the EP and yeah, just that we're really excited for the national tour coming up and and thank you so much. Thanks very much for your time and your support.
Pleasure, mate. No worries. One last question. Do you think you'll make regional Queensland, say Sunshine Coast or Cairns or anywhere like that, or are you just hitting the major metro areas?
Yeah, at this stage we're going to hit the major metro, but look, I've got family up in Queensland. I've got my great uncle has a sugarcane farm in Abulgari, which is just outside of Ingham.
Yep.
Look, if nothing else, we'd get a big horde of family down there, up there. So, and anything to escape the winter in Melbourne is always a good excuse to get up to Queensland. That's for sure.
Fantastic. Well, I'll definitely be at your Brisbane show. I'll throw up some horns, mate, and I'll come and shake your hand. So, I want to congratulate you again. That's sincerely. Thanks
so much.
All of the material that I've heard from the band has been stellar. As I say, and my view is that you are part of the Aussie metal renaissance, and you are definitely not just good enough, mate, but you should be on the world stage, in my view. So I certainly hope really good things come for you and for the band.
High praise indeed. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, mate. All right, all the best. You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that interview subject was Michael Stowers from the Melbourne outfit Orsome Welles. Thanks so much for listening.